Satnam, welcome. So it's such a beautiful day to be here with you all. I feel very blessed to be holding the class that opens up our immersion of Mercury or Hermes. So some of you may be familiar with mythology or not, and it doesn't really matter. I'll give you a little bit of background information on Hermes, Mercury, and how it is relevant to us, how we make it real. But first, a little bit of background on why I've been running so much with these archetypes and mythology and astrology, not just because they all interest me and very much intertwine through Kundalini Yoga. They give us a way to channel the Kundalini Yoga as well in a nice package where we can go deep and really get an exploration of what Kundalini Yoga can gift us in our consciousness, within the physical body, emotional body. And so if we have these 2-week immersions, we can really go deep on a theme but still have a variety in each class. And so Yogi Bhajan, the master of Kundalini Yoga, he gave us 5 sutras to live by in the age of Aquarius. And one of those sutras is vibrate the cosmos, and the cosmos shall clear the path. And so since 2012, we've had that astrological shift of going from the Piscean age, the past 2,000 years, into the Aquarian age, the next 2,000 years. So we are the pioneers of that. And we come with our conditioning of the Piscean age. And not that that's wrong, but it's just such a shift from the Piscean age to the Aquarian age. It's the biggest shift between 2 ages. And so he gave us these 5 sutras, and for the last 12 years I was thinking, what does vibrate the cosmos mean? How do I do that? And the last few years with the study of acutonics, which is a wonderful modality of combining Chinese medicine, mythology and sound healing, vibrational therapy and astrology, I started to finally get it. I understand what this means, how to vibrate the cosmos now. And so this year it's been quite a big theme at Centre for Life as I've been working more on the backseat of things to bring this to you, because as we go through that transition we're seeing the external world around us change. And it's hard because we know the old ways aren't working, but we don't know what the new ways are yet. And so we can clear the path by vibrating the cosmos. And that's what all these immersions are about, is getting you back in touch with yourself, understanding the collective consciousness that we are all one, we're all in this together, and that we can bring about the change that we wish to see. And so this immersion, Mercury or Hermes, really brings us into the awareness of our cognition. Sometimes when we practice a lot of yoga, we think that we're meant to always be getting out of the head. But as Yogi Bhajan taught us, it's not. It's about being an integrated whole. It's not that one part of us is right and one part of us is wrong, and intuition is good and logic is bad. Not at all. If we're going to be intuitive, we need logic and rational mind behind it. And that's actually what gives driving force to intuition. We need our central nervous system, our nerves, functioning optimally. And we see that some of the biggest concerns for us as we mature in age is our nerve health, because we're seeing more neurological diseases prevail, more so than ever before. Dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis, all these kinds of nervous system, cognitive impairment are stronger than ever. And so what we need to do is rebuild the nervous system. We need to rebuild our nerves. Yogi Bhajan said that the nerves need to be strong as steel to face the challenge of tomorrow. And that's not meant to evoke fear about the challenge of tomorrow. It's about having the intuition and the intellectual understanding that the challenge will come. The crisis will come. Do we have the nervous system to face it? So it's not about pretending everything's peace, love and light. It's about going, hey, this is real life, and how do I cope with this? And how do I heal again after trauma, which depletes the nerves? And we know with things like post-traumatic stress disorder, the memory goes. We lose access to our memory. So this mercurial theme has a strong component in rebuilding the memory as well. On Saturday, I'm going to take you through a beautiful set for strengthening the memory. And then the following Saturday, Puran Shanti will take you through the second part of that set. So if you're not here this Saturday, if you're going to White Tantric, then just know that you will get to work on the memory the following Saturday. I didn't forget about you. So we're looking at the nerves, we're looking at the nervous system, we're looking at the brain, cognitive functioning, rational mind, logical thinking, reason. Okay. And then what we're starting to look at as a big topic of Mercury, which I love, is communication. Effective, impactful, saying what you mean, but with consideration of how the other person's going to receive it. These are all the themes of Mercurial energy. And the beautiful thing of delivering this immersion at this time is that we've just had the planet Mercury, which is the closest planet to the sun. It's swift, it moves fast. We have 3 to 4 Mercury retrogrades a year. So a retrograde period simply means that the planet is so close to the Earth that in the sky it looks like it's going backwards. It's like when you have two trains going past each other, it feels like you're going backwards. You know, you've ever had that effect when you're on the train. So that's what retrograde simply means. It's not that the planet is actually going backwards in its orbit. It just looks like it if you watch it in the sky. It looks like the planet goes backwards. It's just because we're so close. And with that closeness, there's an impact of the themes and the archetypal collective consciousness that the Mercury planet holds. It impacts us here on Earth more. And so retrograde, I usually think of as a time of great reflection. We can reflect on our communication, we can reflect on our nerve health, we can reflect, well, is my memory serving me? And so we're just coming out of the retrograde period now. In astrology, we call it the post-shadow phase, and that's where we are right now until a couple of days' time, the 6th, we go what's technically called Mercury stations direct, which means it doesn't look like it's going backwards in the sky anymore. It looks like it's back on its orbit. And so it's beautiful because we're really at that space in between. And that's also what Mercury is about. It's about whenever there's a crossroad in your life, a fork in the path, a boundary or a border, that's where Mercurial energy sits as well. And that is often a time where we need to use our logic, rational and reasoning mind to make the decision of which path do we take. And we can see that this is quite special with Mercury because Mercury is one of the 12 Olympian gods that can pervade into different worlds. So it is about matter and spirit coming together and the intercommunication. Just like our synaptic clefts in the nervous system, there's a space where we send through messages, whether electrical impulse or hormonal and chemical. But there is that space, and that's where Mercury energy sits in a sense. The space is in between spirit and matter. And in the mythology, it's Hermes that goes into the underworld where no one else can go unless they're dead. But he can go in as the messenger. Mercury is the messenger. And he can communicate the messages from Zeus to Hades, the god of the underworld. And Mercury's communication is so enchanting, so effective, so impactful, so logical and reasonable that he can convince the god of the underworld, who is in love with the young Persephone, to let her come back to Earth for half the year. That's the birth of spring, blossoming of spring. And then Mercury, if you're looking at the Roman god, or Hermes, if you're looking at the Greek god, it's the same myth, different name. He can come back out from the underworld. And his effective communication allowed Persephone to be released to her mother Demeter in the earth realm for 6 months of the year, and then she goes back to the underworld for 6 months of the year. So wouldn't we all love to have that kind of communication? Very diplomatic, very diplomatic. For most of us, we have a suppression in the throat chakra, especially us as women. ancestrally. We have been suppressed as women, that we don't have a voice. And again, we see the hypothyroidism or hyperthyroidism or goiter coming in, manifesting in the physical realm as a disharmony when we don't get to communicate. So it can get stuck in the internal, in the inner world, but not come out into the matter, into the material world. And so again, this is a big theme through this immersion and how it's going to carry you through the next 2 weeks, really working on these areas. And so I wanted to share with you a little bit of the mythology of Hermes' birth, just to give you a real understanding of his energy and what we're evoking here. So Hermes is the son of Zeus, and of course Zeus, when everyone was sleeping, including his wife Hera, would love to go out and play. So he went and played with the nymphs, and her name is Maya, and she conceived their son Hermes. She birthed him in a cave just before the dawn, and she was tired and went to sleep, and while his mother went to sleep, Hermes managed to take off his swaddled clothing, make himself a pair of shoes, leave the cave and go on his first great adventure. It's very swift. And he heads out, and the first thing that he sees is a tortoise. And his mind is just so quick. All the synaptic clefts are firing off, logically integrating, and the dexterity of his mind and his hands, and he grabs the turtle, and with a sword he slew the tortoise. And he's just been born. And he hollows out the shell, and he finds some sheep's guts and makes some beautiful strings, tunes the strings, and creates himself the first musical instrument, the lyre. So does everyone know what a lyre is? Yeah, it's like a harp. Xavier's got one. I should have brought it in to show you. So he makes himself his first harp or lyre, and he's so proud of himself, but he goes back home and jumps in his bed and puts the lyre underneath it so no one can find it. And his mother says, "Oh, Hermes, you are the son of your father." And he says, "No, Mama, no. I just went outside to get some fresh air and to thank the gods for being born." And his mother falls asleep again, and off he goes. He's up and out, got the baby clothes off, and this time he wants to make a sacrifice to honour the 12 gods. And so he steals his half-brother's herd of cattle, and he puts their heads on backwards, cuts their hooves off, puts them on backwards, so that as the herd of cows are walking, it looks like they're moving closer across the meadow than out of the meadow. Remember, this is all symbolic. And he directs the entire herd of cattle to his little hideout in this cave, and he decides he really wants to have meat, but he knows he's a god, he can't eat meat. So he cooks up some meat in honour for all the gods of Mount Olympus. And his half-brother Apollo, who owns the cattle, is enraged, and he comes. He says, "Hermes, get out of that crib." He says, "Apollo, I'm just a baby. I was just born several hours ago. My precious feet could never make that journey." Because remember, he made his first pair of shoes that were also very fashionable. And Apollo, I'm not fooled, with his golden blonde hair blowing back, pulls Hermes out of the crib and takes him to where he found the evidence of his cows being slaughtered. And so Hermes is very clever, and he thinks, okay, all right, I'm not one to go up against Apollo, so we'll go to Zeus, we'll take it to Zeus, Zeus can sort it out. And the brothers are there arguing on and on and on and on. And in the argument, Hermes steals Apollo's bow and arrow straight off him, and Zeus is just completely entertained and trying so hard not to laugh as he watches this baby stealing the bow and arrow right underneath Apollo's nose and doesn't even notice it. So Zeus says, stop it now, both of you, before I throw a lightning bolt at you both. You're going to sort this out yourselves. So Hermes, being quick-witted, smart as he is, he runs back and he gets his lyre and he says, Apollo, I made you this lyre. And he starts to play the most beautiful improvised melody, singing a song of praise in the 12 Olympian gods. So we can see there's a trickster, but we can see that there's an element of the divine there as well. And he's playing his lyre, and Apollo can no longer be angry. He says, oh, Hermes, that is the most beautiful music I've ever heard. Where did you learn this? But Hermes just continues to play, softening the anger of Apollo. Offers him the gift. Apollo strikes the strings and says, the sound is just magnificent. He says, I shall honour you and your mother as a place with the gods on Mount Olympus. Thank you for this gift. And from there on, the brothers were best of friends. So we can see Hermes is not emotional. He's not reactive. He's very clear, logical, quick-witted. Just like we need our nerves to be firing off. Quick, fast, responsive. Not coming from emotion and reaction, but coming from logic, reason, and then intuition can come in. We still hold our connection to the divinity, and we can also enjoy the plays and the trickster elements of life, bringing joy and lightness to the environment around us. In the Jungian psychology, they talk a lot about the Hermes or mercurial energy, and that he's one of the greatest gods that has the biggest impact on us. And so you might even like to look in your natal chart where your Mercury energy is and see which element it's influenced by, so you can have an understanding of that too, if you want to look at it. So that's the 2-week theme here that we're dealing with, and we're bringing it out of the myth, we're bringing it out of the cosmos, and we're anchoring it into our own biology, our own physiology, our own psychology, so that we can embody that part of the collective consciousness and our own psyche and bring strength back to that, so that we can just simply face the challenge of tomorrow, so that life starts to become a joy. When we're not in a stress response, we can access our wit, our humour. We can be funny. If we're stressed and the nerves are under pressure, we have no access to that. We're not a joy to be around. We can't bring joy to others because we're in a survival state. But when the nerves are strong, we can bring lightness. We can bring the light to the dark, and we can share that in our life and make life a joy rather than just getting by. That sounds nice, doesn't it?